Hello, my name is Joshua Mugabi. I welcome you to Inheritance and Evolution. We are on Learning Outcome F. Assess speciation and resistance, mechanism driving them, and factors contributing to extinction events through comparison of historical and contemporary examples. We are on Learning Activity B. In groups, learners use problem-based learning to analyze case studies of antimicrobial and pesticide resistance. Make a write-up explaining the problems, causes, and strategies to manage the challenges. Present their findings to the class. Problem-based learning on resistance. We shall emphasize on antibiotic-resistant bacteria. Item 1. A local hospital reports an increase in urinary tract infections, UTIs, caused by Escherichia coli that no longer respond to commonly prescribed antibiotics. Identify the problem. Why are infections becoming harder to treat? The problem is the increased occurrence of antibiotic resistance, E. coli infections in the hospital. Analyze possible causes. Consider overuse of antibiotics, incomplete treatment courses, and bacterial mutation. The causes: overprescription of antibiotics, patients not completing the full course, horizontal gene transfer between bacteria, and natural selection favors resistant strains. Propose management strategies. Here you suggest medical, public health, and education interventions. Rational prescription of antibiotic by healthcare professionals. Public education on completing full antibiotic courses. Hospital hygiene protocols to prevent spread. Development of new antibiotics or alternative treatments, for example, phage therapy. Present findings to the class. Here you can use diagrams, charts, or role play to explain the problem, causes, and solutions. Presentation. We are going to use flowcharts showing causes, resistance, impact, and solution. We can also use a role play of a doctor explaining to patients the importance of completing antibiotics. Let's now focus on pesticide resistance in crop pests. Item 2. Farmers notice that insect pests on their maize crops survive repeated applications of a commonly used pesticide, causing significant yield loss. Identify the problem. Why is the pesticide no longer effective? The problem is development of resistant pest population on maize crop. Analyze the cause. Consider overuse of pesticide, improper dosages, and genetic mutation in pests. The causes. The continuous and excessive pesticide application. Selection for resistant individuals through natural selection. And lack of crop rotation and alternative pest control methods. Propose management strategies. Here you can suggest integrated pest management and sustainable agricultural practices. Strategy to manage. Rotate pesticides with different mode of action. Use biological control, for example, natural predators. Carry out crop rotation and intercropping to reduce pest build-up. Educate farmers on correct dosage and timing. Present findings to the class. You can use posters, diagrams, or short demonstration to explain the issue. The presentation, we are going to use diagrams showing pesticide use. We shall show the survival of resistant pests leading to crop damage, and then we can emphasize on management strategies. Demonstration with colored beans and beads representing susceptible and resistant pests. Let's now look at combined case study in the hospital and farm. Item 3. Students work in small groups. Each group is given a mixed scenario. A hospital struggling with MRSA, methicillin-resistant Staphylococcus aureus, and a farm with pesticide-resistant insects. Identify common patterns between antimicrobial and pesticide resistance. Analyze biological and environmental causes. Propose integrated strategies to reduce resistance. Prepare a group presentation to the class. Let's start with identify common patterns between antimicrobial and pesticide resistance. Common patterns. Both involve selection pressure on populations. Resistant organisms survive, reproduce, and spread. There is misuse of chemicals which accelerates resistance. Analyze biological and environmental causes. The causes. Biological, we have mutations, gene transfer, and rapid reproduction. Environmental, there is overuse of antibiotics, stock pesticides, poor hygiene, and nomoculture. Propose integrated strategies to reduce resistance. Management strategies. Rotate chemicals, stock antibiotics with different modes of action. Reduce unnecessary use of antibiotics, stock pesticides. Use alternative methods, probiotics, biocontrol, crop diversification, and monitor and report resistance trends. Prepare a group presentation to the class. Our presentation, we shall compare hospital and farm cases in a table or a flowchart. Highlight the causes, effects, and solution side by side. Let's now make a role play and debate activity. Item 4. Students are assigned the roles: doctors, patients, farmers, agriculture officers, and policymakers. Discuss the social and economic impacts of resistance. Debate responsibility and strategies for managing resistance. Suggest policies and education campaigns. Doctors should promote rational antibiotic prescriptions. Patients should follow full treatment courses. Farmers should use integrated pest management. Policymakers enforce regulations on chemical usage. Class output. Understanding that resistance is a global challenge requiring collaboration. Key learning points. Problem-based learning helps students to identify real-world biological problems, analyze causes at molecular, ecological, and social levels, propose practical solutions, and communicate findings effectively. Biological insight. Resistance is driven by natural selection and human activity. Strategies include judicious chemical use, alternative methods, and public education. Now let's go to problems, causes, and management strategies. We shall start with antibiotic resistance in the hospital. A local hospital reports increased cases of infections that do not respond to commonly used antibiotics. Identify the problem. Determine the biological and social causes. Suggest strategies to manage the challenge. Present your findings to the class. Let's start with identify the problem. The problem is the rise in antibiotic-resistant infections. For example, MRSA, drug-resistant E. coli. Determine the biological and social causes. Causes: overprescription of antibiotics, patients not completing treatment, poor hygiene in hospitals, horizontal gene transfer among bacteria. Suggest strategies to manage the challenge. Strategies: educate patients on proper use of antibiotics. Rational prescription policies for healthcare professionals. Improve hospital sanitation and hygiene protocols. Research and develop new antibiotics or alternative treatments. Present your findings to the class. Our presentation, we shall use flowcharts showing cause, the problems, and management strategies. Let's now look at pesticide resistance in agriculture. Item 6. Maize farmer notes that insect pests survive repeated pesticide applications, reducing crop yields. Describe the problem. Identify human and biological causes. Suggest management strategies and present findings to the class. Let's start with describe the problem. Problem: development of pesticide-resistant pests leading to crop damage. Identify human and biological causes. The causes: There is continuous and excessive pesticide use, lack of crop rotation or alternative pest control, genetic mutations in pest populations leading to resistance, suggest management strategies. The strategies, there is rotate pesticides with different mode of action, introduce biological control, those are natural predators, employ integrated pest management, IPM techniques, educate farmers on proper dosage and timing. Present findings to the class. Presentation, we shall use diagrams showing pesticide use. We shall talk about resistance, crop loss, and management strategies. Let us emphasize on deforestation and biodiversity loss. Item 7. A forested area is being cleared for agriculture and several species are disappearing. Identify the problem. List ecological and human causes. Propose strategies to mitigate problems. Present findings to the class. We can start with identifying the problem. The problem is habitat loss and biodiversity decline. List ecological and human causes. The causes. There is logging and agricultural expansion, urbanization, climate change affecting habitats. Propose strategies to mitigate the problem. The strategies include enforce reforestation and afforestation programs, establish protected areas and wildlife reserves, promote sustainable farming practices. Present finding to the class. Our presentation will include the mind map linking human activity, habitat loss, species decline, and mitigation strategies. Let us look at water pollution in local rivers. Item 8. A river used for domestic and irrigation purpose is contaminated with industrial and domestic wastes. Define the problem, identify natural and human causes, suggest strategies to manage water pollution, present findings to the class. Let's start with define the problem. The problem is water pollution affecting humans, animals, and plants. Identify natural and human causes. The causes: we have industrial effluents and chemical runoff. There are domestic sewage discharge, oil spills, and agricultural fertilizers. Suggest strategies to manage water pollution. The strategies include: treat industrial and domestic wastewater before discharge, implement buffer zones along rivers, promote community awareness and cleanup programs. Present findings to the class. Our presentation will include diagrams showing pollution sources, impact, and mitigation strategies. Let's now look at climate change impact. Item 9. A community experiences increased flooding and droughts over several years, affecting agriculture and health. Identify the problem. Analyze the causes, natural and human-induced. Propose strategies to manage the challenge. Present findings to the class. Let's start with identify the problem. The problem is climate-related disasters affecting livelihoods and health. Analyze the causes. Are they natural or human-induced? The causes include increased greenhouse gas emissions, deforestation, reducing carbon sinks, global temperatures rise affecting rainfall patterns. Propose strategies to manage the challenges. Strategies: implement sustainable energy sources like solar and wind, reforestation and afforestation, develop early warning systems for floods and droughts. Present findings to the class. Our presentation, we shall include table linking causes, effects, and management strategies. Let's now look at a general classroom integration activity. Students work in groups to analyze any local relevant problem. For example, pest outbreak, pollution, antibiotic misuse. . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . investigate causes, biological, environmental, human, propose practical management strategies, create a poster, flowchart, or oral presentation for the class. We have a problem, the causes, and management strategies. Pests resistance. These are caused by overuse of pesticide and genetic mutation, can be managed through IPM, rotate pesticides, and biological control. Another problem is water pollution due to industrial effluents and domestic wastage. They can be managed by waste treatment and community education. And then antibiotic resistance due to misuse of antibiotics and incomplete treatment. This can be managed by rational prescription, hygiene, and new drugs. Understanding problems, causes, and solution is crucial for effective management. Problem-based learning encourages students to analyze, collaborate, and communicate solutions. Thank you very much for participating in Inheritance and Evolution. We have been looking on learning outcome F, assess speciation, resistance, and the mechanism driving them, and factors contributing to extinction events through comparison of historical and contemporary examples. Our learning activity has been Part B. In groups, learners use problem-based learning to analyze case studies of antimicrobial and pesticide resistance. They make a write-up explaining the problems, the causes, and the strategies to manage the challenges and present their findings to the class. If this one has been very useful to you, visit me at Mugabi Joshua Biology on YouTube.